Jesus is awesome. Most people will acknowledge the fact that given the attributes that he presented here puts him among the top of humans ever to have lived. Many grant that he was sent here from God to teach us how to live. And one of the most poignant occurrences that happened while he was here was when the scribes and Pharisees brought to him a woman who was caught in adultery. And they were going to stone her. I don't know if it was 4:20 in the afternoon or what, but somebody was going to get stoned. And so they brought her to him, and what he did was knelt down beside her and start writing something on the ground. Then he looked up and he looked at the accusers and he said, "All right, those of you who are without sin, you can be the first to cast the stones." He knelt down and started writing some more things in the ground with the woman. One by one, the people put down their stones and they started to leave. And interestingly enough, it was the older ones, we're told, who put down the stones first and walked away. See, those of us who are older come to realize that we're full of crud a lot, that we've all committed horrible mistakes in our lifetime, and for us to stand in judgment of others when we've been guilty of a lot of the same types of things just makes us hypocrites. So it was a very poignant story, very important, and the Bible teaches us, though some choose not to believe this, that Jesus is God. God has three persons. And even though the Old Testament, the Jewish Bible, and the Jewish tradition is that there's only one God, in reality, right from the start in the book of Genesis, it talks about let's make man in our image. So right from the start, even in Jewish tradition, without realizing it in our Old Testament, the idea is that God has more than one person to his being. And it's a concept of a Trinity, a Father, a Son, and the Holy Spirit, three different personalities of one God. So what are the attributes of Jesus that we see? Because those attributes are the attributes of God. Predominantly, he is the epitome of what we think of as love. He's not this person full of righteous indignation. He's gentle, he's caring, he's strong, and he's unselfish. Jesus is my kind of God, born in a feeding trough. The first people that came to worship him were the lowest people in society. They were shepherds. They were supposed to be unclean by the people in the church. And his family, headed by a carpenter, probably lower middle class at best. Ultimately, he knew what he would have to do. The plan that God had was from before time even began, before our time began. And he would endure hours and hours of beatings and then be subjected to die via one of the most brutal forms of capital punishment ever devised. He gave that blood willingly. We know that it's his blood in this universe. It's his blood that punches our ticket to heaven. He gave it willingly, suffering tremendously in the process. On this website, we're going to explore the reasons for a world with so much pain and suffering. In comparison, this life that lasts only 100 years or so is relatively short compared to potentially billions and billions of years. We're talking about eternity. So hardships get our attention, and God would not be very compassionate if he didn't subject us to such suffering without showing us that he understands. When we suffer and draw our attention to him and realize what he's done for us and the joy that we'll have and experience in eternity, we realize that he gently kneels down beside us, just like he knelt down beside the woman caught in adultery, and he comforts us, and he talks to us and encourages us. Now, I'm thankful that I never had to fight in a war, but I would imagine that if one was serving someone in command, that it would be encouraging and you would have respect for a leader if they put themselves right out there, if they put themselves in harm's way. They led with compassion and integrity and strength, and that's the way Jesus is. He came down as a man. He showed us how to live. He showed us that he understands pain. He overcame things, and he's the kind of God that we want to follow. He's the kind of leader that we would respect. So he's the king, and though he lived under the median income, he showed us how to treat one another. And his valor, bravery, compassion, humility, and love, we follow him easily and willingly. He is the greatest man to ever have lived, and he is God.